All right, welcome back to the NFL Report. And James, I can't wait for this. This is one of my favorite people in the NFL, whatever you want to call it. Andre Reed, the Pro Football Hall of Famer from the Buffalo Bills. Andre, thanks for joining us here at the NFL Report.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me, Steve. You know, like I said, man, anytime you call, if I'm available, I'm going to be there. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, we appreciate you making yourself available, Andre. You know you have a full schedule. But before we get going, we're going to hit on a lot of different things. We got to talk about your Buffalo Bills, right? This is a dangerous football team that really showed unbelievable mental toughness last week to win the AFC East. Jay, they were 6-6. They were talking about firing Sean McDermott, right? Well, the people on the outside were. And now they go on this run. What do you see with this team that makes them seem so dangerous going into the playoffs?
That's such a we could spend an hour on what this team has done the past 5 weeks. I mean, left for dead at 6-6 after 12 weeks. Basically, they had to win out to a certain point and get some help. And you hit the nail on the head. Sean McDermott and that coaching staff and that organization has really done a great job with those guys of having them believe that it's all in your hands. If you just go out and win, regardless of what happens, you can't say that you guys didn't go out there and kind of lay an egg. And they have responded. Going to Kansas City, that was a tough game. The only two games in that 5 game streak that I was worried about was like I live in San Diego, the LA Chargers and the Patriots. 2 teams that could spoil your run to get to the playoffs. And they squeak by there. A win's a win, especially at this time of year. They played Kansas City straight up. They made some plays at the end to win that game. Miami last week was another one you just never knew what was going to happen. They played excellent there down the stretch. Got an interception, Taylor Rapp at the end to seal that. And then the Cowboys, the Cowboys were one of the hottest teams coming into Buffalo. I was actually at that game. Anything could have happened there, even though they were home. They beat the Cowboys pretty good.
Yep.
So I think they believe that. And now they take on a Pittsburgh Steelers team that believes they can win, obviously. But coming into Orchard Park, they don't want to repeat of what happened last year. You guys remember the Cincinnati Bengals came in there last year, and it seemed like the Bills didn't even show up. And everybody can talk about, the DeMar Hamlin thing, the weather, all that kind of stuff could have been a factor. But they still had to show up, and they didn't show up. And I don't see that happening coming up Sunday against the Steelers at home. They're not going to have a repeat of that. And they're just a team that's very dangerous. You guys said that earlier. They're a dangerous football team right now. And they did it. They're doing this. We're not a lot of their starters. Trey White goes out early in the season. Matt Milano goes out, kind of like the quarterback of the defense. The 2 corners that played well these last 5-6 games, matter of fact, all year. Benford and Dane Jackson, Taylor Rapp coming in, like I said before, making that interception in Miami this past weekend to seal that deal. So everybody has stepped up to the plate, and everybody's contributing. That's why they're in the position they are today. And probably the biggest thing that they've done this year, more than any year in the past 5 years, 6 years, is they've let James cook. How about that?
There you go.
That's right. Let James cook. Let James cook. Andre, I was with this team a couple of times right when they made that change early on at offensive coordinator, and Joe Brady takes over. I did that game in Philadelphia where they came up short, but there was no denying that Josh Allen was the best player on the field in that game.
Yeah.
I did the game in Kansas City where they ended up starting to turn this whole thing kind of around. And I look at what Joe's doing with Josh and getting him in a rhythm, getting him comfortable is the biggest part of seeing a lot of the success he's having. But obviously the turnovers still kind of happen as well. But the magical plays, do they outweigh a couple of the mistakes that can happen here or there? How do you sum him up as a player? Because the brilliance is so off the charts at times. Do you just say, we know maybe a misstep here or there will happen?
I just hope now that they're, in the playoffs and this game is really important at home. You just got to let Josh. I mean, people got to realize Josh has to be Josh. He's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. When he's at his best, he is the best quarterback in the league to me. That's not because I played there. I just think he has all the intangibles that you want in a quarterback: leadership and arm strength, and the guy can run. He can run people over. He can do everything that some of the quarterbacks can't do in this league. But he's going to make those mistakes. It's how you come back from him, and Josh has done that, and that team believes in him. I mean, you can see Stephon Diggs in his face. Everybody's in his face about things. And every time something like this happens, when he throws a pick that shouldn't be, he shouldn't have threw it, they pan on him, and you can see not only the frustration in him, but all the other players coming up to him and say, "Hey, man, you're our guy. We believe in you." And that's really what Josh is about. And Joe Brady, like you said, he's done a fabulous job with him of letting him be Josh Allen. Just be Josh Allen. Make the runs. If you don't see anything, run. Run.
Hey, Andre, let's change gears a little bit because, we love talking about on this show slot defensive backs and slot receivers. And you're one of the greatest slot receivers, one of the greatest slot receivers ever. That's why you're forever enshrined in Canton. But it's funny, and you know this, when you played, the value on slot receivers isn't what it is today. How has that position evolved, and why do you think it is such an important part of the game now?
Well, I think when I played, during the time I played, it was the no huddle. And if you looked at Houston, the Houston Oilers, the old school Houston Oilers, they had a way of spreading people out with all their receivers, with Jeffries and Ernest Gibbons and Drew Hill and all those guys. I think right now the game, they spread people out, but they bring that James Cook kind of guy in that can catch out of the backfield, catch a ball out of the backfield. And they bring the receivers in too. So they want to spread people out and try to get confusion like we did back in the day. I think the slot receiver is still a very important, integral part of an offensive game plan, because that guy is going to be the guy a lot of times that either he's going to get doubled or he's not going to get doubled. He's going to be one-on-one, and the middle of the field is really important. A lot of times the middle of the field is left wide open, and you got to have that slot guy in there that can beat 2 guys. You got to beat the guy on you, and you got to be able to beat that deep safety wherever he is. So I don't think it has diminished at all. They really rely on that slot guy like a Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen had 108 catches this year because they relied on him. They knew that he can make those plays in that slot. And, a lot of these guys can do that.
I got to ask you really quick, and we're going to make time for the Hall of Fame receivers that you want to talk about, but very quickly, Deebo Samuel's on this show, Andre. He plays out of the slot. What's your thought on Deebo's game, real quick?
Deebo's Deebo. He's like the movie Friday, Deebo. I had a chance to really talk to him a couple years, I think last year, 2 years ago at the Super Bowl, and actually we were doing a hang, and they had just played the Cowboys the week before, and Trayvon Diggs was sitting with us. And to hear those two go at it, it was pretty entertaining. But, obviously Deebo is not only a tough guy to cover, but he creates a lot of mismatches. You never see a linebacker on him, and every time he catches the ball, he can run you over. He's one of a kind. So Deebo's Deebo, bottom line.
Love that respect from one of the greatest yak receivers to ever do it, and you talking about probably the best yak receiver in the game today. Lastly, Andre, and you know this, man, you had to wait a long time to get into the Hall because of the wide receiver logjam. Well, here we are again. Of the 15 finalists left, Reggie Wayne, Torrey Holt, Andre Johnson, another logjam of wide receivers. Do you think any of them, if maybe not multiple of them, get in, or as we've seen before, they tend to cancel each other out when these voters select because there's so many of them?
Yeah, and I've talked to all 3 of them the past 5, 6, 7 years. And it's not like they look at me and say, "Hey, what's going on?" I mean, back in the day, you guys know, it was me, Chris, and Tim Brown.
Yep.
And years later, it's the same thing with Andre Johnson, Reggie Wayne, and Torrey. And I hope this year is the year they I hope this year is the year the voters get it right and put one or two of those guys in. Two of those guys would be awesome. Whether that happens or not, it's never happened, I don't think, but I think it's time that happens. These guys all are deserving. Their numbers are all up there. Their impact in the game is tremendous. They all deserve it. And I just hope this year that one of those guys or two of those guys get in. Matter of fact, put all three of them in. Do that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do that.
Put all three in. I don't want to say Andre anything pushes anybody over the edge, but two of the three have been on the show recently with Steve and I and Andre Johnson and Torrey Holt. And Reggie Wade's a good buddy of ours, Steve. We got to get him on the show. I think the NFL report kind of pushes everybody into the hall. Andre, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the postseason as long as it goes in Buffalo there.
Yes, I definitely will. And I got people coming at me left and right. You coming up to the game? You coming up to the game? As soon as I look at that weather report, I go, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do that. Southern California sounds real nice right now.
It's a pretty sunny room you're in there.
That's right. Hey, Andre, appreciate you.
Here's what I'm hoping, guys, before we leave. I'm hoping they win and beat Pittsburgh, and then Kansas City wins, and we got Kansas City and Buffalo. I definitely will go with that.
Okay, here we go. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, Andre, it's always great, my man. We'll see you in a little bit, bro.
Awesome. Nice talking to you guys. Appreciate you guys having me on.